and the boy wakes up beside his sister. It was all just a dream. He looks at his sister sleeping and starts crying, thinking about his father. Now he knows his father wasn't treating him like a child but was protecting them both from the sea monsters. Bota embraces his sister, realizing they're alone now. In the morning, Bota finds their boat and asks Lita to help find something useful, but she asks where their father is. The boy wonders if his sister could handle the truth about their father. He looks at her, and she starts crying, asking why their father isn't there if he died and is with their mother now. Bota can't bear to look at her crying anymore, and they end up embracing on the small island, crying together. As the day passes, they gather the materials left by the boat. They find the boat's clock still working, but since the monster attacked during the day, the clock isn't as useful anymore. The siblings' stomachs start rumbling, but when Bota asks his sister if she's hungry, she pretends to be strong and says no, even though her stomach is growling. The older brother tries to cheer up the girl, searching for something they could fish with until he finds the forks he collected with their father. He remembers even complaining that there were already too many forks on the boat, but according to their father, it was always good to have a few more. The boy manages to make a small harpoon and goes to the sea in search of some fish. This time, when he looks at the water, he's afraid to enter. He starts thinking the monster might still be alive, so his sister holds him back, asking him not to go because the monster might still be there. He agrees with Lita, and they see a crab passing by, which ends up being their dinner. But since they found only a few, Bota lets his sister eat them all. The hungry boy starts thinking he needs to figure out a way for them to survive. He collects rainwater to drink and remembers that his father taught him how to desalinate seawater for drinking, but with this method, they would get little water. The siblings are happy to see the experiment was successful. They celebrate not having to worry about water scarcity anymore. The boy is feeling a bit more confident that he will be able to survive on the island. He thinks he needs to memorize the layout of the building and starts exploring it with Lita. Bota helps his sister climb the stairs and reaches the green door their father saw earlier. After entering the room, the first thing the siblings notice is the skeletons full of bugs, and they feel disgusted. Lita hugs Bota in fear, and he explains that they must have been residents of the island and that it's better for them to grab whatever is useful and leave the place soon. They find a cloth, a canister with gasoline. Bota picks up the bomb and remembers that it's similar to the one his father used when he exploded with the sea monster. The boy wonders if he'll be able to fight the monsters like his father did. He looks at the skeletons on the floor and thinks they were also a family, worrying if he'll be able to protect his sister from ending up like them. They light a fire, and Bota continues working on the fork harpoon while his sister hunts for crabs. The boy knows he needs to enter the water to hunt, and if the creature appears again, at least he has the sword his father left behind. He can use the sword to protect Lita, just as his father wished in the end. The boy notices a small button on the sword's handle, and after pressing it, smoke starts coming out of the sword. It propels the boy forward, and he ends up hitting a wall face first. Blood starts flowing from Bota's nose, and his sister appears, saying she found something strange. Lita shows a door on the floor, and he notices a small hole in its corner. After pushing the door, they discover a staircase leading to a lower floor. Bota starts descending the stairs and hears a noise coming from the depths. The boy gets scared but keeps going down, and suddenly a giant fish jumps out of the water. At the bottom of the stairs, several fish can be seen swimming. Bota gets excited to see the fish and dives in. He notices the fish are many and very big, and he quickly manages to catch one with the harpoon. Now he believes that with water and food, they'll be able to survive. But then something shiny appears in the distance. When Bota gets closer to see what it is, he realizes he's surrounded by sea monster eggs. Suddenly, one of the eggs starts cracking, and a claw emerges from it. Bota swims desperately to get away from the eggs, realizing he is in the monster's nest. The newly born creature grabs him and tries to bite his leg. The boy fights back and thrusts the harpoon into the monster's eye, causing it to swim to the bottom, screaming in pain. As the monster is at the bottom, staring back at him, Bota manages to reach the stairs. But as soon as he does, a hand emerges from the water, trying to grab him. The monster emerges from the water, heading towards the boy, who swings the sword, shouting for the monster to stay away from him. The monster lunges towards Bota. Fortunately, the boy manages to dodge it, climbs the stairs, and closes the door. The sea monster continues attacking, clawing at the door, so the boy thrusts the sword into the door, trying to hit the monster below. The monster stops attacking, and the boy thinks it might be dead. Bota puts several pieces of concrete against the door to prevent the monster from getting through. Only then does he realize his sister isn't there. A boy starts calling for Lita until he reaches a window and sees his sister, at the edge of the island. He shouts for her to come back and stay away from the water, but she points at something in the sea. The boy sees a figure in the water that looks like a person and panics, thinking the monster is still alive. Suddenly, Lita gets into the boat and starts rowing. She looks at her brother, saying their dad has returned, but he screams for her to come back, saying that the figure isn't their father. At that moment, the clocks start chiming, and Bota looks at the horizon, realizing it's getting dark. He jumps into the sea, trying to reach his sister. Underwater, Bota can see many monsters emerging from their dens. He surfaces, and his sister tells him to get into the boat, but instead, he starts pulling the boat. They reach a small ruin, and Lita starts climbing it. Bota notices a monster coming, and the creature tries to attack his leg, but he dodges. The siblings hug each other in the small ruin while several monsters swim around them. Bota knows that even near the island, if they jump, they'll be caught by the monsters. The monsters start hitting the ruin, and Bota knows if they keep doing it, it'll break, and they'll become fish food. When he thinks there's nothing else he can do, he remembers his father, who died to protect them both. Then, he gathers the courage to protect his sister. Bota attacks the monster with the sword, making a gash in its head, and it falls into the sea. When the boy thinks he has defeated the monster, two more appear behind them, trying to devour the siblings. The boy doesn't give up and attacks the monsters with the sword, but as the monster falls, the structure also starts collapsing. Bota grabs his sister as they fall, manages to push off the structure, and jumps over the monsters, landing with her in the boat. The siblings look scared as one of the creatures starts devouring the one Bota had defeated, and several others appear to try to eat the monster. They take advantage of the chance to row back to the island, but the monsters notice and start going after them. Fortunately, they're faster and manage to reach the island before the monsters catch up. The sea monsters keep coming, and the siblings run into the building and climb the stairs. Bota tries to cut the steps to stop the monsters from climbing, but it's very difficult. Then he sees the monsters entering the building, running towards him. He continues to strike the stairs to prevent the monsters from climbing. The monsters hang on to the steps, trying to catch Bota. One higher up attacks the boy and manages to tear his back. Finally, the steps break, and the monsters fall to the ground. Bota and Lita look down as the monsters start scratching the walls, trying to climb up but failing. They collapsed on the ground, relieved. Then Lita reminds her brother that he's injured. The two enter a room when they come face to face with the monster Bota thought he had defeated earlier. They tremble in fear, and the monster starts attacking Bota. When the monster is about to devour the boy, Lita sticks a piece of iron into the creature's eye and shouts for it to let go of her brother. Bota is surprised by his sister's action, and the monster, now with both eyes pierced, moves towards Lita. She stands still with her back against the wall, and the monster can hardly see her. It approaches and sniffs the girl. Lita becomes desperate as the monster is literally leaning against her. Bota seizes the opportunity to shout at the monster with a gallon of gasoline in hand. The monster looks at him and, without hesitation, leaps towards him. Bota throws the gasoline gallon right into the monster's mouth, causing it to dodge just as the monster was about to bite him. The monster crashes into the wall and, stunned, stands there with the gasoline gallon in its mouth. Bota takes advantage of this opportunity to use a slash from his sword, not on the monster, but on the iron bars, creating sparks that ignite the gasoline on the ground, leading to a path of fire towards the monster, which burns in flame. Taking advantage of all this, Bota grabs Lita and begins to climb the stairs, but he accidentally knocks over the box containing the bomb. He tells Lita to duck as it's going to explode, and a few seconds later, the explosion is so massive that it brings down the entire building. The children survive somehow, and as the building collapses, they are lucky enough to fall into the water. But in a world where monsters roam the ocean, falling into the water might not be considered luck. The debris collapses on top of the eggs below the building, killing most of them. Bota and Lita manage to cling to one of the debris pieces and see that the island building has sunk. We see an almost terrifying scene with a clawed hand appearing behind Bota, who looks back and sees a monster staring at him intently. Not just one, but several of them appear. Bota and Lita find themselves with no chance of getting out of this. The monsters start attacking Bota. In an act of desperation, he swings his sword with little success. He defends himself from one of them biting him with his sword, and just when all seemed lost, we see a projectile hitting the monster from behind. Bota and Lita look to see who it is, and indeed, it's another person, a woman with white hair, an eye patch, and two large swords. Quite beautiful, I must say. The monsters head towards her. She draws a weapon that seems to shoot harpoons or steel arrows, which start destroying all the monsters, almost hitting the sibling. As she shoots with her weapon using only one hand, the monsters seem to realize that they are safer in the water and advance beneath her. Bota and Lita watch as the monsters head towards the stranger. A monster approaches them from behind. Bota dodges the monster, protecting his sister, and attacks the creature with his sword, but this time the monster manages to literally hold off the blow, and with the other hand, it prepares to strike Bota. The boy screams in panic, and then the monster is hit by several small harpoons and falls. Bota looks back and sees the girl who saved him. He shouts to her that there's a monster coming from behind. She was reloading her weapon and unable to dodge. The weapon fell into the sea, and she got injured in the arm. Several other monsters prepare for a new attack. She draws the two swords on her back and heads towards them, slicing each of the creatures with the swords. Bota watches as the stranger easily dispatches the leviathans, continuing to cut down the monsters before her, even those fearful of her. Bota and his sister look at the monsters strewn around them. One of them opens its mouth and tries to attack the siblings, but the warrior perceives the threat and surprises even the siblings, leaping onto the monster with her two swords. The two watch as she stands amidst several defeated monsters, until she turns and looks at the monsters floating in the sea. She looks at the siblings, who are embraced and scared, wondering if she would be a good person. Bota thinks she saved them, but she still almost hit them when she threw the harpoons, so she could be an enemy. Finally, she talks to the siblings, saying they're lucky to find a harpooner out in the open sea.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on upcoming videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed it and share with your friends. See you in the next video. Bye for now.